Good morning, everyone, and welcome to History with R&R Live. Well, how are we doing this morning, Jeff?
Doing pretty well today. How are you, sir?
I'm alive and kicking, I think.
Well, you
so
seem
going
to be.
through, yeah. I actually did my hair. That's going to be a bonus. I didn't just put the baseball cap on, so that's a good thing. If you ever want to know why guys wear hats, it's because we woke up and went brush, hair stuff. No. And threw on the baseball cap. All right, so welcoming to the chat, Dr. Alex, John DeMarco, Deej Odyssey, welcome, sir. Mrs. Canuck, welcome, my love. Gorilla Random Thoughts, and do I have anybody else in chat? Mark, the Infully Tired, good morning, sir, for the second time. People will know what that means on Friday. And welcome, Bird of Prey 5. And of course, welcoming to the panel our local weather person who can tell us why in the hell I have 6 inches of snow in my front yard, Katie.
Hello. Yeah, no, it's because
Welcome.
you chose to live in Canada.
Yeah.
There's your simple forecast there.
And I didn't choose shite.
Just saying. How's it going, guys?
Alive
Doing pretty well.
Nice.
It's good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm pretty good. I got my 3D printer up and running, so I'm making little models of Dorothy from Twister. It's a slow process, but it's coming along.
How cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, everyone needs a hobby, and mine's just melting plastic.
Well, there you go.
So how often do you watch that movie?
At least twice a year, depending on if there's severe weather, maybe like 6 times to 12 times. It really just depends.
Yeah. And then there's when movie comes to life, and it's usually more entertaining. Yeah, my favorite when it comes to that is there's an old comedian routine about the people who like tie themselves to trees and stuff, and they're like, I'm gonna withstand the storm because no about a wind blowing is going to frighten me off. And the comedian's routine is it's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing, and you ain't standing up to a Volvo.
It's crazy. No, you get tornadoes that pick up trains and buildings and bricks. It's not the wind that kills you, it's the debris. More often than not.
It's what the wind is blowing that will get you.
Exactly.
Anybody who gets hit with a Volvo first thing in the morning isn't getting back up.
And the wind has been blowing here for the last, I would say, 36 hours.
Really?
It's pretty strong here.
Yeah, there's a large storm system working its way up the East Coast. So looks like the central and western United States is, it depends, honestly, how windy it's going to be day to day.
But before we get too much into today's topic, I'm going to take a brief second out because I woke up to the sad news over the weekend. We got news that Scott Hall's recent round of surgery. Scott Hall is a wrestler, just for those who don't know. Recent batches of surgery ended him on life support. And then this morning, the news broke when Kevin Nash, which is a close friend of Scott Hall, released that the family is gathering and they're going to be pulling him off of life support shortly. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Scott Hall. He was a big part of my childhood as a wrestling fan, from Razor Ramon to part of the NWO. A lot of we will miss the hey yo. Anyway, and the bad guy is going to be riding off to the sunset, so we tip our hat to him. And moving on, but I had to say something as a wrestling fan because, well, he was part of my childhood. So,
well, you are the host. You can.
Yeah, I can interject when I want to. I try not to, but what have you. So, where would you like to direct us today in the wonderful world of storms and oopsies?
Well, we're going to take a look actually at the history of storm chasing and just tornado forecasting in general, because it's a really turbulent history that's very modern compared to other sciences.
Yes.
It's really quite incredible. And
I liked your pun there. Turbulent.
Yeah. It's an electrifying subject. But what's really
Yeah.
great,
Ooh.
I could go all day. But what's really great, honestly, is that a lot of people don't realize that use of the word tornado in official forecast was really frowned upon and even like just banished. You couldn't say the word tornado because it was thought to cause undue fear for a decent amount of time back in the early 1900s. I
Yeah.
don't know about you guys, but like living in a world where tornado can't be said in official forecast just blows my mind.
Yeah. It's going to be slightly windy, and if your cows start to fly, you might want to go into the basement.
Exactly. But we have really good modern forecasts with tornadoes. Like we can let you know reliably up to 5 days in advance if it's a really obvious system that's moving through. And even back then, they couldn't even forecast when the tornadoes would happen. Really, we
No.
didn't start getting tornado data until back in the 1880s, which I do have. If you see me looking around my screen, I have notes pulled up all over the place that I've gathered in preparation for this. Call it OCD, call it being a nerd. I want to be prepared.
You have a whirlwind of information. Ha. Anyway.
Exactly.
You're joining in there, Robert.
Exactly. So
I can
I have
hold my
details
own.
on anything you could possibly want to know about early storm prediction and even modern storm and tornado chasing. So, what would you like to know?
Well, other than finding out by walking out your door and starting to fly, which you don't normally do, how exactly?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, why is my car flying down the road? Oh darn!
there's got to be an
That was a
explanation for
little.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So when did
When did it
they?
grow wings?
Yeah, when did
Yes.
that cow learn how to do that? And why is he just going in a circle? This is wrong. Um, so, but not only I guess the forecasting of it, but just like there were certain things that were said to the population that I'm sure in modern day we look at and go, that's not going to do you a bit of damn good. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, it was fascinating.
Like the old nuclear warnings. If a bomb
Yeah.
drops, duck under your desk because that's
Yeah.
going to do what? But we'll still
It's
spend
true.
millions of dollars training children to duck under their desk.
Now you know. Well, actually, one of the first modern forecasts that was like tornado forecast to ever be made, that actually was made to help preserve life and property, was back in Tinker Air Force Base. And it wasn't back in the 1800s, it was in 1948. So it's within some people's still lifetimes
Yes.
that they had this first ever groundbreaking tornado forecast. And it was because a tornado hit the same spot twice in 5 days.
Yeah, which isn't supposed
Oh
to
my
happen, right?
goodness.
We
It's
grew
like
up being told that it doesn't hit. It's like the old
like
lightning never strikes in the same place twice. Yeah,
exactly.
bullshit.
Then we made the Empire State Building, and it gets struck so many times every year. It's
Yeah, but
it's incredible. But no, this was Tinker Air Force Base, and it was back March 20th and March 25th. So coming up on the anniversary, actually, back in 1948, and just two intense tornadoes rolled through Tinker Air Force Base. And the first one caused a lot of damage. They didn't have a tornado forecast. So all the planes were out there. If you look it up, there's stunning imagery of the tornadoes that rolled through EF3 ranking, or F3 ranking. It was before the enhanced Fujita scale. But it was really quite impressive to see. Orville Nation, good to see everyone in the chat, by the way. But yeah, the first tornado happened, and then Fallbush and Miller, which two just amazing fathers of early forecasting for tornadoes, actually saw that a pattern had emerged. And they were like, okay, this is the upper area information and all the weather information that we have today is exactly the same. We're putting the base on alert. Bring in the planes, put it all in the hangar, and another tornado hit the base. Like it
Wow.
couldn't. The likelihood of that happening, just insane. But it was an accurate, successful forecast. And then the public started to wonder after the papers broke, like, oh, they forecasted a tornado. Why doesn't the government do this? Which the
Yeah.
Weather Bureau had frowned upon using that term tornado because they believed that it caused mass panic, which
Yeah.
understandable in the early era of meteorological understanding that, yeah, you'd probably panic a little bit, and to an extent today. But at the same time, they wanted the early warning, and so now that led into a whole new century of tornado forecasting. We aren't even in the first, we're still in the first 100 years of successful tornado forecasting.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is, and we kind of touched on this the last time we were on the show, and that is where historically we have people who did it properly, and then like in every aspect of life, there are people that watch a couple of videos or look at a movie and go, "Hey, that looks cool. Let's go do that," and they end up buggering it up for the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's been a problem, especially recently. If anyone's a part of Weather Twitter, there's been some drama going down. But actually, in my research, I found who is acclaimed to be the first storm chaser, and his name's David Hoadley, and he's from North Dakota. And he's born in the 1950s, and he still was chasing when the El Reno tornado happened back in the early 2010s. Like, this dude has been chasing forever.
Wow.
And it's because the storm came through his town, and he wanted to learn more about the weather. So he self-taught himself everything he needed to know. And he started to go out and see these storms, which not a lot of people had the ability to do that before the 50s. Like, you had to have pretty fast cars, and you had to have enough gas and enough stamina to be able to go reliably. So as car technology has increased, so has our ability to chase. But he was actually quoted, if I have this right, with the early 80s being the peak of storm chasing, because it was before the adrenaline chasers joined in.
Yeah.
And the photographers and the people who do not have the training to do chasing. You don't have to necessarily be a meteorologist, but you have to have the scientific knowledge. Otherwise, you could get killed. And
yeah,
so
you need something a little bit more than why is that cow flying? Then to know,
with cows flying, for example, that back to the movie Twister, 1996. I was born in 96.
Yeah.
Making you feel
Well, apparently
old.
all you need to do to chase a tornado is drive a red Dodge Ram.
Exactly. And some people have that mentality. And it's not just like, I mean, there's people who genuinely, not meteorologists, amazing chasers. Tim Samaras, phenomenal chaser. Anyone who is familiar with Tim Samaras knows that he was one of the safest in the field, and even he ended up perishing in a tornado. Like, you can be the safest person in the world, but if you try to get too close, or even somewhat close, these storms can turn on a dime, quite literally, and it could end up in loss of life. And the El Reno tornado, for anyone who's interested in that kind of tornado forecasting, how that changed the meteorological community forever, just look up El Reno tornado. It's a monster.
Quite literally.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Where do you go to get training?
Yeah, so really when it comes to tornado training and storm chasing, mine was purely through college. It was through academia. And so when I was a freshman, I went through all the Meteorology 103 courses. We did severe storm nowcasting. And so we learned how to forecast and what signs to look for storms to change and evolve and potentially move or split. And even just 1 year of training was really helpful, but I went chasing with our class that summer. We had a class where we just chased for 10 days out west with our professors. So they guided us and showed us, okay, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is proper chaser etiquette. And it shows the difference between the formal trained people and the not formal trained people. Just in the way of, I don't want to say chaser etiquette, but chaser etiquette. Kind of.
Well, you have this in BC, and it's not even storm chasing, but in another comparable thing, we have it where we have the Rockies in BC, and you get these idiots that live in a city and go, you know what would be really good? Let's go climb the mountains. I'll go get some hiking boots and a nice little spring jacket, and we'll go climb the mountains. And then, Canadian Rescue has to go find these idiots because because they've, gone above their pay grade.
Well, we have something similar with, it's an effect called chaser convergence. And it's driven a lot of chasers to stop chasing just because it's more dangerous than the storm, where you have a very high volume of chasers out there with varying degrees of experience and training and understanding. And we had an example of this out in Colorado when I was storm chasing with my college. I did it 4 years in a row. And there was two chasers got in a car wreck. It wasn't like they died or anything, but they got in a car wreck, and there was one road. And so
Yeah.
that road was shut down, and we had easily a mile of chasers on this one lane road backed up, slowly creeping along. And some guy in a white truck, God, I wish I knew who he was, blasted past everyone in the oncoming lane because he wanted to keep up with the storm. But there was hail on the ground, and he kicked up the hailstones and shattered our car window
Oh,
and
Oh,
put
lovely.
glass all over the students and could have really seriously hurt some people. Not only with the hailstone, but with the glass that shattered. And I mean, that just goes against everything that chasers should be about, which is safety. That's the whole
Yeah.
goal: is you spot the storm, you report the storm, and you continuously report the storm to the National Weather Service so they can get the warnings out, while also getting your photos, doing your research, doing this, doing that. You always prioritize the public safety first. And
Yeah.
that's something that has kind of become a little bit lost with the newer chases.
Yeah, because the other thing I would imagine is with, like back in the day, you take a picture, you have to bring it to the actual station, and now it's
Mhm.
so instantaneous. The person to get it first is always um,
Mhm.
a driving force, as opposed to
Mhm.
getting it right. They need to get it first.
Exactly.
Never
And
mind getting it right; they just need it first.
one of the nice things with our station is, and meteorologists in general, is we're starting to realize what liability chasers are doing. And basically, if they are trying to get as close as they possibly can to get the best footage that they can in an unsafe manner, then that's where we have a problem. And we are some meteorologists like myself will not use that footage. We
Yeah,
will use, all we want is a crappy, like, you could use a Nokia flip phone and take a picture and send it to the TV station. We'll pop it up on air and be like, there's your barbershop, there's the tornado, you need to get in your basement. And it's proven that it's caused people to actually go and seek shelter. So
yeah.
the photography and video aspect of it is amazing and phenomenal, especially when it is happening. And in retrospect too, it helps researchers. But if you're going to kill yourself or someone else trying to get the best, most extreme footage, we don't want it.
Yeah, yeah, because and again, I think a lot of it could be also attributed to just like the modern age of first, not not
Hmm.
right, but first.
First, yeah,
We're like
most clicks.
how many news organizations have gotten into trouble because they've released a story too soon,
Hmm.
and then half of what they just wrote turns out to not be true, but
Hmm.
because they were in such a hurry to get this
Hmm.
out so that they could say
Exactly.
they broke
Yeah.
it first, right? First
Hmm.
being the issue, not right. So
Well, and another problem with the storm chasing, as far as like being first or being this or that, is that you get these people who want to be constantly under the storm the entire time so they can see, like, if something changes, they're the first to see it.
mhm.
Well, these storms, especially in Iowa lately, are booking it at 100 miles an hour plus.
Yeah.
And we had that back on December 15th. We had the largest tornado outbreak in Iowa history. Very interesting. I was in 3 tornado warnings at once, and I was on air. It was really, I don't want to say fun, but it was cool to see the science actually come into play when you're on TV. And we got the warnings out, and no one in my area was injured. And that was such a success. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you the relief broadcast meteorologists get when people actually heed the warning.
Yeah.
But you end up with some chasers who can get killed by these storms, or worse yet, killed by other chasers. Kelly
Yeah.
Williamson, and it's a classic example. I was watching his live stream on the Weather Channel. He was a chaser for the Weather Channel, and he was speeding and blasting through stop signs. He didn't even stop for stop signs, trying to catch up to the storm while he was live streaming. He didn't care about any other chasers out there. And there was a solo chaser. He was by himself. He was doing everything right. And he was going through an intersection, and Williamson just blasted into him, killed all three.
Yeah.
And that's the prime example of you don't have to be first, you don't have to be fastest, you don't have to be best. This is tornado chasing. There's going to be another chaser out there who also gets a shot. So you need to make sure that you are chasing properly and effectively. Otherwise, no one's going to respect you in the meteorological community for your methods to get that shot. And we just had that play out last week. So just goes to show, don't be a jerk chaser. Don't be a toxic chaser. Just chase. That's all we're out there to do. You don't have to own the universe. Just see it. Very nice Doctor Who quote that is very applicable to storm chasing.
Yeah. But I think, unfortunately, it's just the modern way of looking at things. You know, you've got to be the biggest, the best, the baddest, the best. You know, first.
I'm trying to change that by, I mean, some people will say that it's not professional, but calling people out if they do improper or irresponsible things. Calling back again to last week, that chaser posted his video of him going through the Winterset community, Winterset, Iowa, which was devastated by an EF4. There were emergency vehicles blocking the road. He went around the emergency vehicles, drove through people's yards to get around the emergency vehicles. He was speeding at incredible rates of speed through small Iowa towns where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. And he ran off of the road. It was a T intersection. He ran the stop sign and just blasted down into a field.
Yeah.
Just to get this shot. And people started calling him out and said, what are you doing? That is irresponsible. That is wrong. And he hasn't learned his lesson, but he did get a $550 ticket because he called it into the Iowa State Patrol and gave him the video. So once we start to call out the bad behavior, it's going to be good.
The part that always, and I have to word this carefully, but kind of makes me go, well, duh, is you'll get where somebody does this and they'll irresponsibly chase or they'll irresponsibly go and do something. And then the tornado turns, picks them up and throws them half a mile and they pass away. And you know, the reaction is, who'd have thunk this could have happened? And it's like, well, what did you expect to happen? If you screw around with Mother Nature long enough, she's going to screw back. And she don't play nice.
If you're a proper storm chaser, every time you go out, you understand the inherent risk. You could get a hailstone to the head. You could get struck by lightning. You could be caught in a tornado that just is so violent. Its nature is to just corkscrew. That's what happened with the El Reno tornado. And unfortunately, Tim Samaras and his son. And it spun in unpredictable basically unpredictable forms. Yeah. And most tornadoes don't do that. It's really the luck of the draw and what Mother Nature does. And so some scientists, they accept that risk so they can help get data on these monsters and enhance the field to keep more people safe later down the line. But others, they just think that they're out there to get a cool shot, and they don't realize 2 tornadoes can form on one storm and you're standing right under the mesocyclone. And it just, the lack of meteorological understanding can be a detriment, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you can even go and break it down to the basics. I mean, I live in Canada where we get something called ice and something called black ice. And
black ice.
It never makes it every year. Back when I used to have my car and I'd go driving, I would laugh hysterically at everybody who forgot how to drive. And is going 110 down the highway in whiteout conditions and then ends up in the ditch and can't figure out how the hell they ended up there.
Oh, you get that here with rain.
The road looked clear. You're in an open field because you'll have a field on either side and then a road. Well, where do you think the wind has been whipping for the last 10 minutes? Dum-dum. It's blown the snow off the road and left this nice little clear ice that you can't see until you're already on top of it. And now you're spinning at about 100 kilometers an hour and wondering when the ride is going to stop.
Exactly. We get that. We get ice in the winter and we get hydroplaning in the summer. And people don't realize the longer you go without rain, the more rain treats the roads like ice because you get
Mhm.
all the oils that build up from the
True.
cars that have been driving that hasn't been cleaned off by rain. And we haven't had rain in a hot sec out here. So the second we end up, hi Doppler, the second we end up
Oh,
getting some kind of rain, it's going to be a mess. Everyone, this is Doppler. Her brother's name is Radar, and she's a little ball of chaos. Can you say hi? No? Are you gonna claw my
it's a
face?
kitty,
Okay.
kitty, kitty.
Yep, she's insane. Absolutely mental. You're floating in outer space, hun, and you're attacking the green screen. Nope. Nope. Don't want people to see the laundry that's behind the screen. Oh, goodness. So what were we talking about?
Stupid people mainly.
Yes, hydroplaning. Yeah, whenever
that-
it rains, just slow down.
yeah, yeah. Or snows, or doesn't snow, but there's a high wind.
Yeah, no, people don't realize how
Snowdrifts
bad
are
high
almost
winds.
worse than snow itself.
Mhm. Oh, we
Okay.
had a blizzard out here, a genuine true blizzard back 2 Decembers ago. And we had a little bit of snow, but it was the wind. It was at 70 miles an hour and it kicked up the snow. I could not see the hood of my car. It was the worst snow I'd ever been in. Just
Yeah,
crazy. And there were people out there trying to get video of it. I'm like, you might as well just hold it up to a sheet of paper and just
yeah,
be
yeah.
like,
It's white.
there's nothing else.
Very common theme here, folks.
You can't
But
even
I
see
mean,
your
like,
headlights.
I look at stuff now, like it's funny because when I was growing up, like I was in Cubs and scouting,
Mm,
and we'd go for a whole weekend out with like a pack of matches and stuff like that and a shovel. You couldn't do that now. There
yeah.
are too many stupid people, but what can you do? But it learning simple stuff like that. They don't teach the kids that anymore. Like it's safer to be dig into the snow than it is to be above it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, just
Yeah.
normal common sense.
Well, and one of the things that we try to do in the meteorological community is train people, whether they're interested in like the storm chasing or not, as long as they have an interest in weather. We do storm spotter training here in the United States, and it's offered by the National Weather Service. So it's a formal education for people who do not want to spend 4 years at college intensely studying math and physics.
Yeah.
Uh, it's pain. It's still pain, but I've actually burned a physics textbook. I can't take it anymore. But I no, we do these storm spotter trainings in the spring, and it's just a couple hours long, and they train you the clouds, what to look for, what are the signs, when to report it, and how to report it. And it's just basic meteorological know-how that I think everyone should know, but only weather nerds sign up. It's still fun, but I just wish everyone would take that class, or they would offer it in high school. That would be the best, is if they offered it in a high school.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite things to do was to bring some of my city friends out to the lake, because weather in the city and weather on the lake are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You
sure.
get you get
100%.
a little bit of wind in the city, and it's no big deal. If you're in the middle of the lake and that wind picks up,
No friction to stop it.
I got news for you. Those waves are about to get a little bit unbearable. So
Mhm.
Now, Katie, before Deej Odyssey gets upset with me, I need to tell you that he's still eating on his icicles. So
I
you need to
mean,
talk to him. You need to
bro,
talk to this guy.
I'm pretty sure I made it explicitly clear. You don't want to
You
do that,
did.
fam. Oh no, I actually, if I ever get freezing temperatures again, I want to take an icicle and I want to melt it and just like real time melt it so you can see all the dirt and debris that's caught up in icicles. Some people say it adds flavor, others say it adds tetanus. Who knows? Just best to avoid and eat some ice cubes instead. They make icicle shaped ice cube trays if you really want that hankering to be satisfied.
There you go.
yeah, well, it's always fun, and heaven knows what's on your roof, but
And we did have a question way back from Orville Nation. He wants to know about water spouts.
Oh yeah, so you get different kinds of tornadoes, which are really fascinating. You have land spout tornadoes, water spout tornadoes, and then just tornadoes over land. But water spouts, as it is implied in the name, happen over water. They can be tornadoes that move over a lake, briefly turn into water spouts, and then move back over land and become tornadoes again. Or like what they had in Florida, where all the time, honestly, they have water spouts that form over the ocean and then move on to the beach. And that's pretty much what we see, although you can get water spouts without like tornadic storms, tornadic supercells. And the reason why is because it happens in the fall most often than not in the Great Lakes states. Warmer air, the water is warmer than the cold air above it. Oh, happy birthday. And so the water, it acts as that warm air rising, and the colder air above is the cold air sinking. Normally, you need frontal boundaries and the air masses colliding to get that, but the lake provides it by itself. So you add just a little bit more spin, or even a little hint of a storm system or some wind, and you can get water spouts up the wazoo easily. It's just a matter of how warm is the lake, how cold is the air above the lake, and is there spin?
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I used to live about 15 miles south of Lake Erie, and
Ooh.
I've seen water spouts happen in July, actually.
Oh yeah.
And
Totally.
it's because we've had cool air coming down from Canada. There was no storm. There was just cool air coming down.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the things that happened at Cedar Point, America's Rock and Roller Coaster, right on. But
yeah, that's where I lived. I mean, I lived about 20
really?
minutes south of there. Yep.
Lucky. But also, no, they have the chance for water spouts to form. And then since it's a peninsula poking up into Lake Erie, water spouts can move onto shore and potentially move into a roller coaster park. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just weather alone is nuts. I mean, especially up here, like we always joke here, where you can get all 4 seasons in a day just for fun.
Oh, completely. Well, and what's awesome is depending on your geography, you get different things that are caught up in that weather. Like down in the bogs of Louisiana, they have fish nados, they have frog nados, they have snake nados. Over towards Australia, they have black ant nados. There's jellyfish nados reported, I believe that was over towards Japan, or starfish nados. There's turtle nados, everything you could possibly imagine getting sucked up into tornadoes or water spouts because it moves across the water or the land that they reside on.
Yeah. And then once in a while you get powerboat one that is really fun. Ruins the yacht club or two. But I mean, tornadoes in a sense are interesting because, as predictable, I think, and you could probably, I'm not exactly knowledgeable, but as predictable as they are, they're still unpredictable.
Yeah,
because they can get temperamental and go, "Oh, you think I'm going that way? Ha! Newsflash."
Exactly. And that's why we have the saying, respect the polygon, where our warnings in the United States are rectangular in shape, or at least polygonal in shape. Australia has them in circles, which blows my freaking mind. But here in the United States, the National Weather Service issues them in the block format. So if you're anywhere in that block, you need to seek shelter, even if the tornado is just going to be a tiny little line through that brick, that polygon, is because it could move. And so we still adjust for that. And that's how you get people who are freaked out when it comes to tornado warnings. They're like, well, I've had 5 of them and nothing's hit my house. It's like, good for you. Don't complain about that, because you're tempting her.
Exactly.
Hear that. But it's also along the lines of, yeah, well, you missed the track, but you were still within its potential wobble zone, which is not an official term. It's just what I call it. But that's one of the things that we try to emphasize too. With current forecasting, the way it is, no one should die in tornadoes. We get 1 to 10 rogue tornadoes that just form in areas that don't have warnings every year. And we're working on it. But there are tornado watches now issued hours before the storms form. We have tornado warnings that go 40 minutes ahead of time. And it's not as much of a meteorological problem as it is a communications problem and getting that warning out. So I think the EAS alerts, the emergency alert system texts that people get, that's going to help save so many lives this spring and even beyond, because then you get the tornado warning alerts, and then ultimately it's up to people if they take that warning. And if
Yeah,
they don't,
because you get the same problem that we get up here, is we get told, well, you're gonna flood. No, we're not.
yeah.
We didn't flood, and then 97 happens,
Mhm.
and then you start to see your neighbor's house floating down the walkway
Yeah.
because oh darn, the red decided to be pissed.
We
Right?
issue the warnings and the alerts in case it happens. It
Yeah.
gives
Right.
you time to prepare. And what hurts, what genuinely hurts, is when we have people who, by no fault of their own, say we had no warning. They didn't have any warning. There was a warning issued, but they didn't see it and they didn't get that information. And for many people, they take that as the weather people screwed up. It's like, no, no, no. We issued it. It's just a matter of making sure everyone has a way to get the information. And sometimes by no fault of the meteorologist, people end up getting hurt or killed in tornadoes because people just didn't want to take the warning. They've been in so many tornado warnings, they just are like, it's gonna miss me again, and then it hits them. And that hurts a
Yeah,
lot.
Yeah, that-
like
Just knowing that we could
that
have
and
done more.
the modern consciousness, well, at least for most of my 37 years, the old joke. The only job that you can be wrong 99% of the time and still keep your job, meteorologist. Right? Like,
I don't think it's that high though.
Back in
no,
the
but
40s,
that is the
it
old
was
joke.
pretty high. But now we're in
Yeah.
the 2020s. Honestly, I'd say the wrongness factor is down in the 10 percentile when it comes
Yeah.
to tornadoes.
But it's the mentality, because
Oh, completely.
people have been told that over and over and over and over. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. It's
Oh yeah,
the
no,
belief.
it's become a part of culture, kind of,
Yeah.
where we're like that joke you can go to. And I mean, meteorologists, we're pretty good sports about it. We know we have faults. So many
Yeah.
faults. Also, it's just like, guys, come on, we're trying our best, please. Just listen this one time. Oh, so it's an uphill battle of fighting an older culture with newer information. Because at one point it was true. Like 1800s, we didn't know jack about
Yeah.
tornado forecasting.
Yeah.
And so, and even hurricane forecasting, until you had modern communication, I mean, they really relied on just the islands closer to the Atlantic to send back information of, oh, we have a bad storm brewing over here. Hence the Galveston, Texas hurricane that killed so many people early on, 1900s.
Yeah, like earlier today, I took a look at the 7-day forecast for Winnipeg, and I got a chuckle because there's one day next Saturday where the forecast starts off with the rainy symbol and ends with the snow symbol. Yeah, we're gonna rain and then we're gonna snow. Just so you know, we're gonna have both seasons in one day. It's no big deal, folks.
Why not? Yeah, but now you have advanced warning, so you know you don't want to go out on the roadways. Then that happens.
And then when it doesn't,
there you go.
And then when it doesn't snow, then the idiot goes, "Well, they said
exactly.
it didn't
It's like,
snow, and I
well, look
canceled my
about
plan for
20
nothing."
miles to your north, and you'll
Yeah.
find that snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But and also, you get it where the city sometimes deflects a lot of that. So unless you're at Portage in Maine, then any wind is a pain in the arse. Portage in Maine and Winnipeg is the worst place to sit for wind, because it's what they've done is they've taken a flat area and built 4 high-rise buildings on the corners. So they've created a wind tunnel. So if you're if you're on Portage in Maine and there's wind, duck.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Chicago has the Windy City nomenclature to it. Is it's a large city next to a large flat mass, which is Lake Michigan, and so there's no friction until you get to the city, and that friction causes all sorts of wind chaos.
Oh, I heard it was because of the politicians.
Well, that also is some turbulent stuff.
We had a question from Birdo Prey 5. He asks, please ask if dust devils are different than tiny tornadoes.
Yes, because dust devils don't need storms at all. Dust devils, honestly, those are the ones where you have my blessing to run straight into. You might get smacked and have sand blast into your corneas, but it won't be as nearly as intense as a tornado. Basically, what it is with dust devils, you don't need a big storm that causes the spinning motion. It's more along the lines of surface wind blows across a really flat and warm area. So, like a baseball diamond, for instance, or an empty cornfield or something along those lines. And the sun is beating down on it and it absorbs all that heat. So it rapidly heats up as opposed to the air that's above it. And it's very similar to water spouts in that respect. But you get a little bit of wind that's formed and it causes that spin up. But it's not sustained. It's be there
No.
1 second, be gone the next. So
We
that's
get those,
different.
but we don't get dust. We get snow. Go out on the lake
There you go.
for ice fishing, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you'll see the snow just going like this, and you just
Yeah.
go, "Oh, that was wonderful."
Snow whirls,
I
they happen. Fire whirls too.
I used to live in central Arizona. One day I was driving out from the post office
Mhm.
out onto the road, and a dust devil formed right in front of me, went right over my car. That
Ooh,
that was kind of exciting.
nice. Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
had them in the fall a lot back home in Michigan. And my grandpa built a golf course. He immigrated, decided a golf course was the way to go. And so I grew up driving around on golf carts, and we had dust devils, and I would just totally just blast right into them. It was so much fun. I get so many leaves in my hair, but it was fun.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's always fun. Well, we even get the leave ones that
Oh yeah,
cyclone up if you get enough wind and an
and
improperly placed pile
some
of
of them
leaves.
are insane. Oh, I
Yes.
will say, some of them are really intense, and you can just tell common sense tells you, "I'm not gonna run into that one. I'm gonna go to this little leaf whirl in the corner near the building entrance way." Like, that's what I'll chase, but yeah.
Yeah. The only problem with leaf whirls is when you find the one that has a rock. Um,
Yeah, pebbles get in the way. They make it kind of crunchy.
yeah. Especially if you get smacked in the temple, that hurts. Um,
Yeah.
or swine
Yeah, that's
cold.
not fun.
Or snow and you get a little bit of ice. That's fun.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've dislocated both of my knees. One of them was because of the snow. I bent down to take a picture of
Oh,
it blowing around. I was skiing at the top of a hill back in Michigan, and I kind of starfish laid out on the ground to get this shot. I went to stand back up, and my leg just went like that. And I
Ouch.
relocated it with my fist and skied down the rest of the hill. I both times I've actually dislocated my shoulder and both of my knees. And I've relocated all three of them by myself, much to the impressed looks of the ER staff. Apparently, they usually have to anesthetize people before they can pop their knees back into place.
Yeah. If you turn around and you hit the right piece of ice, you find out that relocating your spinal cord is really, really easy. It just
ouch.
you could readjust your
Yeah.
spine without a chiropractor. Just go and run over there. It'll fix it right up. Especially, and when it's happened to me, where I always land, there's that one knot of ice that's sticking up right where you land. Um, that makes
I
it
relate
so
to that so much.
that you land right directly on that. You couldn't aim it better if you tried. And you hit,
Isn't it
yeah,
funny how that happens, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and you just lay there
Just
going, "I'm
one of
good.
those
Like,
happy
I hate moving,
coincidences.
but
pain. Yeah.
when I get to feel my legs, I'm going to be happy."
Oh gosh. I mean, that's one of the things, like, people don't realize with ice, you can slip and you can fall and you can land in just the right way that Mother Nature cracks you like a glow stick.
Yeah.
It's just luck of the draw, I'm guessing.
Yeah, or we won't talk about the time that Canuck decided that when the Red River was breaking up to see if I could make it from one side to the other, just jumping on the ice. I did it.
Ah,
Um,
that
did it?
doesn't seem very safe.
No, did it anyway. But
Oh my
chalk
gosh.
that up to young and stupid.
Silly things we do.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I only fell in once.
Wow.
But
Just
anyway,
once.
just once. It was
Once
near the
was enough, huh?
shoreline, so it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
So what can you tell us,
Definitely,
Katie, about safety with severe storms, tornadoes?
Just get below ground. Not everyone has the ability to, because you get a lot of places like Kentucky where they can't dig down into the bedrock in many spots, or you get trailer parks, the classic trailer parks. And the reason why you see such devastation there is because they aren't underground. So if you have an area like a tornado watch, or if meteorologists are saying 5 days in advance, hey, there could be a tornado outbreak this day, plan a tornado party. Same thing with hurricane parties. If you do not have the proper precautions and the proper safety to keep yourself safe in the worst case scenario, find a friend who does. Or if you're that friend, host a party and let everyone come over who's from the trailer park, who doesn't have a basement, if you have a basement, and just hang out for the day.
Yeah.
Whether there's tornadoes or not, you at least get to socialize, but also you could be saving lives. So just I'd say for safety, just make sure you have a plan and a place to go that's safe. There's communities that have been destroyed by tornadoes, and they've built community storm shelters now in those towns where if a watch is issued, you can go to those areas. So that's
that's
my
smart.
advice.
I was hinting at earlier, where the go to, if a bomb is going to be dropped in your area, just duck and cover underneath your desk. What is out there that has been pushed by people who supposedly know what they're talking about, that you look at and go, if they did that, they're dead. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, it's a matter of reliable sources.
Like the old hide in the bathtub.
Well, or for storms, hiding under overpasses. I assume you guys have heard or seen videos of people hiding under overpasses in tornadoes. Horrible idea. I can't remember the exact name of the phenomenon, but when you have a garden hose and you put your thumb over it and it just kind of goes everywhere and it just becomes much more intense, so you can shoot farther. That's what happens. It becomes a wind tunnel. The underpass is your thumb over the hose. It's just going to sandblast you out of there.
Yeah.
And you're also getting you're funneling debris and where the debris can go, and it's just one of the worst places you can possibly be when there's a tornado. If you're going to be somewhere, be below the ground level, whether it be a ditch or a basement. Either one will help save your life.
Yeah. So we're going to end with a question from chat. So I'll bring it up here. So Gorilla's Random Thought says, can you compare the 1925 tri-state tornado to the quad state one last year?
Oh, yeah, because I was actually flying to Chicago when that storm started, and I saw the storm from the sky, which was nuts. I have the pictures. Very little blip, but you can see the overshooting top. Honestly, they're very similar in region and track, just like strength too. You had this storm that produced multiple tornadoes because it was broken into segments after further review, but it's eerie how similar it was. And one thing too with the tri-state tornado was it was with a massive cool down. It snowed on top of these people after the massive tornado rolled through. Now, back in the 1920s, we didn't have tornado survey teams like we have these days. So for all we know, that might not have even been one large tornado. It could have done what the quad state did and lift and drop and lift and drop and lift and drop and cycle. So I would say that they're very similar, just in different eras of time and with different understandings. We got a real good view and real good understanding on radar of how the quad state rolled through and how it evolved. So hopefully that'll help us in the future.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to end with a quick little service announcement. If you would like to be, if you know a little bit of history and you'd like to be on one of these live streams, please do let Jeff know. Don't let me know, because I don't schedule these things. He does.
Can I put the contact in the chat there? If you want to get a hold of me, we'd love to have you on the show.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't care what century or topic. I'm pretty much jack of all trades.
Doctor Who.
Who? But anyway, there's
we can travel in the TARDIS.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a nap. But
wow,
that show. But anyway, yeah, I was never a fan. But anyway,
Well, I'm with you, Katie. We'll do
If
this.
There we go.
if you would like to be on the show, just let Jeff know, and just remember my
blast.
complaint department is Leslie Stiles. Try to find him on social media. I dare you, because you can't. My brother doesn't even know what Facebook is. Never mind how to log on. So.
Nice.
But at any
Deej
rate,
Odyssey says Tom Baker forever.
Nice. After I so side tangent. This Peter Capaldi, when he's having
Ooh.
his like,
Sweet.
I like the comparison of your uncle who moved to Vegas in his 40s and never got up married, kind of is how he acted in that Magician's Apprentice episode, and I love it. So I cosplay it. And I'm going to be at Planet City Comic-Con here coming up this spring doing the 12th Doctor. So if anyone's going to be at Planet City Comic-Con, Doctor Who will be walking around the floor.
Nice.
And just a brief thing. I don't usually do this, but I want to thank everybody who has helped with this and put this together. Also, Mary, who started up the kick in my ass and dragged me over the I need to ask for help line. Because I'm stubborn, and put thank you to Orville Nation who put the raffle together, and definitely do check that out. Basically, I'll give you a quick little rundown. Basically, as everybody knows, I'm on dialysis, and I've been struggling with that. But this year also compounded that with my son turning 18, which meant my budget went from $1,000 a month to $150 biweekly. And when you're given $300 a month and a $360 hydro bill the next day, things like what the hell am I going to do come to mind. So I do want to thank everyone individually. You know, I'd love to be able to just thank everyone that has helped me with that, because honestly, it's really humbling to say, but it's true. This afternoon, I get to pay my bills, and I wouldn't have been able to pay my bills. I probably would have disappeared off the face of the planet for a little while without everybody. And I greatly appreciate everything that everybody's done, but and especially Orville and Loki and Mary and the crew who dragged my stubborn butt over the line of who am I and why do I have to ask for help, and I won't ask for help, and there's people who've got it worse than me, and blah 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 blah, and they go shut up and do it. So thank you to those people who deal with my stubbornness, and thank you to everyone who has helped out. And with that, I will say, in time-honored tradition, thank you and good night.